We have been reframing our sales pitch for corporate customers. We are installing commercial rooftop solar panel system with no upfront investment by saying now is the most important time to cut costs, become more efficient. You also have more time as external activities have been reduced. Now or never, don't wait. Let us save you money now. Question, what other message can we be communicating to push customers, bankers, funders, etc. to move now and not use the current government mad economic crisis as an excuse? That's a pretty good excuse. I mean, the crisis. But if anything, the cost of producing electricity, etc., if there's a lot fewer people participating, is going to not go down. It should go up. So you might use that, the increased costs of energy for houses. Now, energy for gasoline to put in cars, etc., has gone down dramatically. We have acquired 4 companies in digital business, transformation strategy, services, over 100 people, Europe and Asia. Our current 3-month pipeline show only small effects from Corona, fairly good relationship with our bank. Current acquisition targets seem fairly stable, but how do we present the new acquisition targets to the bank when uncertainties? You're going to have to use a lot of seller finance, kid. Other than healthcare and the tech, you're safe in avoiding everything else. If Dan could expound upon this attached tweet of his, I agree with him, his tweet from April 1st. How did the author know Dean Koontz in 1981 a virus would devastate the world? I have no idea. One of my right-wing buddies from the military sent it to me. I had never heard of this guy, Koontz. But it's obviously had been written in the book 1981. And other than a couple of facts that are out of place, he's pretty damn accurate. So I really can't expand. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. What industries will be the easiest, most difficult to roll? Well, the easiest is going to be healthcare. The most difficult to roll up are retail and things with small margins, which hasn't changed. Can Dan give us his view of markets and the businesses who will suffer and disappear? Well, a lot of businesses are going to disappear, okay? Why would you go to get your nails done now? Why would you go? I mean, even barbershop. I haven't had a haircut. I can't imagine if I don't get a haircut between now and, let's say, the fall, I'm going to go back to my hippie look with the hairs over my ears. There's a lot of things that just, we become used to having other people do it. I saw my wife doing her nails yesterday. The healthcare, telecom, and cybersecurity, artificial intelligence are still going to be hot. How would you deal with a CapEx heavy industry? I'd forget about it. I wouldn't bother with it. Is now the time to prepare for a reverse exit? I'm not sure what that means, a reverse exit, but it's still the time for, we don't buy anything unless we've got an exit plan. So we buy, acquire, roll up, exit, and continue to do that over and over again. In a down market, how does that change the way we value a business? Remember, it's worth 25 to 50% less. It may not be worth anything. But this is where you put the seller, through seller finance, at risk. In other words, okay, you did $1 million last year. If, let's just say, and you ask them for the number, well, I should still be able to do $500,000. Okay, if you do $500,000, this is the purchase price. Again, cash flow's got to cover debt service. If you do $750,000, and if you do more than you did last year, this is the price. You want to bring the seller into the risk equation, is what I'm trying to say. How far down are we going to go as far as the economy, and when do you think? I don't know. I don't pick bottoms. I'm better at picking tops, as you well know, Bitcoin, etc. But so far, the markets in general have gone down about a third, although there's been a lot of rebounding. I would expect that we're going to test those lows and go beyond them. Where does Mr. Peña currently see hot acquisition in oil and gas? I don't. I posted on the social media where Exxon and where the big Chevron, big companies have to have oil for them to continue on their budgets. I believe one was $50 a barrel, one was $70 a barrel. There's over 5,000 wells, both figuratively and literally underwater in the North Sea at $30 Brent crude or whatever it is. They need, $50, $60, $70 Brent crude. How can we get access to aid money? Just call the various governments. If you're in Germany, the German government's got programs. The United States government's got programs, etc. I've got 2 deals in the dental sector, one with an NHS contract, therefore cash flow backed by the government. That doesn't mean anything right now. Cash flow backed by the government is when the NHS isn't under pressure. The one which is a fully private practice, in some parts, well, not in the NHS, but some parts of the world, you go to jail if a dentist sees you. Which verticals are the best for a pivot and which should be avoided at all costs? I mean, I'd stay in healthcare or high-tech technology. Many businesses are currently temporarily closed due to the government guidelines. Even if the seller has become more motivated, how do we get... So you negotiate the deal for when it's going to open up. Most banks don't even have their branches open. What should be our expectation of how bank funding thresholds will change, and what's your best strategy? I can tell you, if you can substantiate cash flow being covered by debt service by 1.5, 2 times, you'll still be able to get deals done. Do you see the U.S. dollar devaluing? No. If anything, it's only going to get stronger. I've been told that as the deals get bigger, the less chance it has to close. I disagree with that. If I want to acquire a healthcare business within a year with high probability of closing, what is the first deal size? I'd still, when you're in the beginning of the QLA continuum, still 1, 2 million, then 2, 3, then 3, 4, then 4, 5, then 5, 8, then 8, 10. Technology trends like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, and remote work are changing the world. What is your prediction on how these trends would change the workplace? Well, you're going to have more people working from home, one, which means that people aren't going to be driving, or they're not going to be using, do you want to sit in a subway for an 1.5-hour commute? The answer is probably not. We're probably going to be, movie theaters. Are you going to want to sit next to anybody? Restaurants that seat 200 people that are now going to seat 75 to 100 people. I'm told by cooks and chefs, which I never thought of, are 2 chefs that are laid off right now with pay, that you can't have distancing in a cook in the kitchen. I hadn't really thought about that. But there's, most things you need to be close to. Some things you don't. In these unprecedented times, what are the best factors, financials, to consider regarding valuations? It's still cash flow. What aspects of business do you see not returning to the normal? My rough guess is we're going to lose between 25 and 35% of all existing businesses. There aren't going to be any more tanning salons. I don't believe. There aren't going to, it's easy to figure out. Has anything changed for QLA process? Any shift in focus away from debt towards more equity financing? No. If you think equity financing is going to save you, you go out and try, and then let me know how your program's working out. The COVID-19 virus moves in cycles. In a couple of weeks, we will reach the peak, hopefully. After that period, it will decrease, and thereafter, it will come back. Together with the fluctuations of the COVID-19 casualties, we can expect heavy fluctuations in revenue. That's correct. What percentage total consolidated revenue for 2019 do you suggest keeping in your holding company cash? As much as you can. If we have line of credit, are we at risk of losing the availability? You are unless you draw it down. If you've noticed, all the big airlines, the cruises, the big companies are drawing their lines of credit down. And they're applying for more lines of credit. Remember I told you cash would be king, and it's better to draw down the lines of credit than see them evaporate? Now you know why. I'm looking at an aged care. Should I bail out? Should I bail on that to focus on the industry, what would be lucrative at this time? Care is still the place to be. What are the businesses and industry that will be impacted forever by the crisis? Almost all. You talked about everything related to leisure, travel, hospitality. Correct. How those will be after the crisis? In bad shape. Will we still be possible to do acquisitions in those industries? Yes. As I've commented both on social media and in person, leisure, travel, and hospitality are changed forever. The obvious ones are cruise lines. But I mean, hotels, and people will still, if you think tourism from China to the rest of the world is going to be the same or anything remotely the same, you're living in a dream world. Vice versa, if you think that tourism to China is going to be anywhere near the same, you're living in a dream world. That's not going to happen. You're still going to be able to do acquisitions, but the multiples are going to be much less. For example, the example I used to give back in the 90s to show the transition into computers. For those of you that remember the Smith Corona typewriter, when the IBM 360 typewriter came out, there was no more Smith Corona, and now there are no more typewriters. Now there are laptops, etc. For those of you that even want to go back even before that, the buggy whips. The buggy whip business went out of business when the cars, because there were no more horses to hit with the buggy whip. That's going to be, the case now. And there will be pundits that make millions writing books on where you should stay away from and where you shouldn't stay away from. No QLA need additional steps other than you have to have more calls. I used to get often asked, why were you making 6 or 8 presentations a day? Because I was not confined, but I was confined to the oil and gas business, which was collapsing. 10,000 oil and gas companies went out of business during the time that we grew at 55 million%. And nobody wanted to hear my story. So I just kept on making presentations and talking to people till I found somebody that was interested. During your March YouTube seminar video, you said that you were going to teach on the penultimate day how to do a deal in 48 hours. No, well, we didn't. In 48 hours, I was going to make 500 phone calls, and it's easy. So, there is no secret sauce. I get asked this all the time. There is no secret sauce other than fucking pulling the trigger. During the Black Swan event, should we source and intend to buy publicly traded companies? No. This is possibly one of the first times in history when owning almost any business, having employees and capital assets is a liability eating up cash and margin. Has this situation changed your view of buying businesses based on cash flow and multiples over the next year of heightened uncertainty? And is it better to buy these distressed businesses outright now at a discount, or come in as a lender of last resort with default takeover clauses? Well, unless you've got money as a lender of last resort, I should say, it's better to do a joint venture and or mostly seller finance. In March 2020 seminar, you mentioned tourism, leisure, food, retail, wholesale, fitness, dental practices as industries to avoid. Yes, I did. Is cosmetic surgery included in these categories? Yes.